I just recording this because I'm bored. Um, I want to record something right now because the world at the moment is kind of in dismay. There's a lot of things wrong with the world, but humanity is kind of overly certain of itself. How would I put it? We, as a species, are very antagonistic to one another. We kill each other. We bury each other. And we dismiss each other. We, as a species, humanity, man, woman, child, are very secular in our own standards of living now and our beliefs. I believe that in the future, humanity will be, in its own way, well, it's already going towards some bit of that, alone. A lot of things in life, such as people and their friends and how they talk and how people communicate to each other, are not really in person anymore. Jobs aren't really in person anymore. Things that you do every day are more, confined to singular spaces than multiple spaces, and people don't go out as much due to lack of money, and also the ability to apply to jobs is not. It's not. The employer doesn't check up with you anymore. You have to check up with the employer. And, I mean, following up is not as easy as much as people like to say. Same with how talking to people is not as easy as people say it is. I think that over the course of the next 25 years, people will lose themselves. People will lose their humanity, their ability to be as humans. Not really, thinking about what affects them or what will happen to them or what their future is. People will stop thinking about what are their friends up to or what is happening around them or why is anything happening around them. What controls that? When people verge on conspiracies, people believe everything about these conspiracies because they don't want to be wrong. When people don't want to be wrong, when people want to have all the information, all the answers, they become very loose in their thought. They don't know who to trust. They don't know who to be. They don't know what to think. They can't think for themselves. They look to other people so that they learn how to think. And that scares me, in a way. When people don't understand how to think for themselves or think in a way or speak in a way that is off the dome, that isn't a sort of group think or a sort of, it's okay to have a bit of group thought, but not everything has to be group thought. And if you don't have the ability to come up with your own opinion in your own way, but also look to others for thoughts on the same, subject and their opinions, then you've lost it. You've lost the plot. What plot, you may ask? The plot to humanity. Human beings are very creative, but also, as I said, insular creatures. We like to confine ourselves to our own routines and pastimes. I, as a autistic, I enjoy the daily routine. I enjoy getting dressed in the morning. I enjoy brushing my teeth, even though I'm not as good as it may. I should brush twice a day. Sometimes I only brush once. But, as I say, people are very, interested in themselves a lot now these days. A lot of people have more interest in themselves than they do other people, or trying to see what other people think, or trying to see other points of views. You can see this in political climates, financial climates. You can see this in actual climates, like climate change and different productive processes that cause those climate changes, and everything in between. Human opinion is conducted by electronic algorithms and computer programmers, which is really depressing. When an artificial intelligence indicates your entire future, it kind of sours how you see the world. And artificial intelligence, especially generative AI, how it creates art or thought, and people use it all the time so that they don't have to think. It's sad. You don't have creatives anymore. You have people who are generative. You don't have people who are creative, or people who have thoughts or feelings or personalities. You have people who see what other people are doing and they copy. It's all group. There's no independent thought. And you have to balance that. If there's not a balance of both independent thought and group thought, then you just lose either way. Because if you're too independent with your thought, then you don't know how to console others. But if you're too into thinking with a group and not thinking for yourself, then you don't know how to console yourself. And together, you just have to think in both group and non-group. Independence is a great challenge for a lot of people in this world. Humanity is not very kind to countries who want to choose independence. But I'm not going to bring that into this. That would be too much. And, people can argue it. That's just my opinion. It's a very not good opinion, I can tell you that, but people can argue that. Arguments are not very structured anymore. This I'm doing off the top of my head. It's not really an argument, it's just me speaking. But when speaking about arguments are very hostile, volatile. I mean, they're literally arguments. It's such a volatile word. You can't really... I don't know. What do you get from that? You who's listening, what do you get from an argument? Or what is the volatility of an argument? I think I try to not be argumentative. When I am argumentative, I try to state my opinion, but I'm very... How do I put it? There's too many things going on in my head, and there's not enough function. I feel like a robot at times, but it's true. There's function, and then there's not function. And it's functioning, then a jolt of electricity, and then no function. It's very, cathartic. How would I put it? Catharsis. Into, unto, and behind catharsis. And killing myself slowly is humanity and its subtle ways of confusing me and everyone that it engulfs. The thing I hate about the world is how people are very, not personable anymore. People aren't personable because they don't know each other. People don't give people that they don't know the time of day anymore. And, there's good reasons why, but also, it makes people less apt to respond. in the world. When you can respond instantly to any message or any thing with a push of a button or a keyboard, you retard your senses. You don't really do anything else. And when you write, or when you speak, or when you articulate anything, there's going to be someone who's always faster, or who thinks they're better spoken than you just because they talk faster than you and can respond faster than you. A faster response doesn't mean you're intelligent. A faster response, if you think about it, means you think in a way that you are knowledgeable, yet you have no knowledge. You are a shell of a human being, and you spat out speed for thought instead of responding normally through, thinking. And people say, don't think too much on it. Sometimes you have to think a little too much on it. Thinking is what drives people. It's what drives thought. It's what drives everything. Now, at this time, thought is not very considered. People who think are considered, how would I put it? Since a lot of people are influenced by social media, they hear people speaking in such a slow tone and a very pretentious manner, and they think of pseudo-intellectual people who have not a doubt in their mind what they're saying, because pseudo-intellectuals have no doubts, because pseudo-intellectuals are pseudo-intellectuals. They're pseudo. They're not real intellectuals. And intellectualism is a very debated topic as well, because intellectualism can be on a scale of different levels, and, it's hard to develop anything, because real smarts aren't controlled by how much you know, or what you know in the moment. It's what you learn. What you learn considers the abilities you have to talk about a certain subject. I've learned more in my life than I have known. There are certain things in life I can't speak on because I don't know it. I've learned a little bit about it, like electrical engineering. I've learned a bit about it, but I can't really speak on it. I can speak a little bit on it, but I can't really fully articulate a thought and opinion about it. Like ohms or electronical connections or different bits of how electricity flows and everything. Programming, I know a bit about programming, but I can't articulate everything about it. Computer programming is hard. You have to be experienced. I'm not very experienced. Clothing, I just got into. I'm sort of experienced in it, but I'm not very, I'm knowledgeable about certain bits of history. I'm not knowledgeable about Asian clothing history. I'm not knowledgeable about black clothing history. I'm not knowledgeable about... Actually, I am kind of knowledgeable about Hispanic clothing history, but not to the fullest degree. I'm usually, when I talk about clothes, I'm talking about white people. I'm knowledgeable on the whites, the Europeans, their clothing history. I'm not knowledgeable on most aspects of black clothing history, because a lot of the time, old clothing history for minorities are usually relegated to, white history. And the suit, especially. The only thing I really know about black clothing is there's dandyism, and there's the zoot suit in between, and then the streetwear. There's nothing really else I would know. And then there's, how would I put it, Black Ivy, or the fourth one that's in between the dandyism and the, or the zoot suit and the, streetwear. That's it. That's how I put it. But I'm not very knowledgeable in other aspects other than white or classical men's clothing. Women's clothing, I'm even further away from. I don't really study women's clothing. It doesn't interest me. And it shows. I love men's clothing. I wear suits every day. I wear ties every day. But I don't know a goddamn thing about women's clothes. I know how a bra works. I know how a brassiere, like hooks and everything, but I don't know anything else. I know men's shoes, I don't know women's shoes. And to be honest, a lot of things in life you just don't know. The vast knowledge of the internet is so corrupted by everyone who puts information into it. It becomes less useful each day that it exists. And each day that the internet exists, more useless information and superfluous facts and falsities that are perpetrated by governments and people and everything are destroying the usability of it, of this great World Wide Web. And the thing about the internet is I wasn't alive for a long amount of its life. I was alive for, I was born in 2006, so I was alive for the ending half of the golden age of the internet, and then the corporatization of the internet. I wasn't around really for internet cafes or anything sort of that such. And so, what I think about that is, I don't know. I've lived such a short amount of time. 18 years is not that long. I mean, it's long enough for me to remember when televisions were the size of, well, a rock or a boulder and weighed 200 pounds, but not long enough to remember when the first television came out back in the 1930s. And it's a lot of stuff. You know, youth is not knowledge. Youth is the beginning of knowledge. Middle age is the memory bank starting to be put together. And then elderly age is when all that knowledge comes to fruition, when you can use it. And all sorts of things happen when you're older or when you're younger, and it's a long, long, long journey. What I will say is, in my 18 years on this planet, I don't think I've ever met anyone who can articulate feelings in my generation poignantly the same as my friend Yusuf, or or I can't remember anyone else. But I will say that it takes time. It takes time to be someone, or to be a person. It takes time to think. It takes time to read. It takes time to exist. It takes time throughout all of human history to learn about human history and learn about people. Learn about everything. And how would I put it? Keep your humanity. Don't let technology take it away, or become something of a slave to technology. Be a human, not a machine. Thank you.